So this is for the, I believe, Disability and Accessibility Issues Representative for ESC at large representative. Currently, we only have one candidate running for the position, so you may just say your name, your platform, and then I'll ask you like a quick question regarding your platform. But that'll be please.
Okay, so my name is Adriana Echeverria. I'm a senior studying biomedical engineering, and last year I had the fortune of being chosen as a disability representative. And basically what I would like this year is to be able to continue all the efforts, and I will be running basically the same platform of identifying what the identity of a person with disability is and approaching every single issue that encounters our establishment of our identities on campus as engineers. Fortunately, last year I had the pleasure to work with very hardworking people in the Engineering Student Council and people from the Colombian Partner Disability Advocacy groups, and they taught me more complex areas that I had never initially put forth as a representative. So I know that through that whole work, from a year-long sleepless nights and all, we were not able to address even half of our issues, but we did take very important steps forward, and we started the conversations, and we created a subcommittee for students with disabilities and mental health. And right now, my sole purpose is to continue those efforts and not make them go to waste, and help those people that had faith in me this year and be able to represent you in an even better capacity since I have the experience already.
All right, thank you. So I guess you were representative last year as well. So I was wondering, you've already mentioned it briefly in your introduction, but what are some experiences of difficulty that you've had, and like how have you overcome it in the past, and how you're going to apply those lessons to the future?
So the main difficulty that I had is that I came with a platform of identifying what a person with a disability in engineering is and establishing that within the Columbia community. And what people were expecting from me coming in was, how many ramps are you going to build? How many people? And then what my job was very educational in a way. I had to put forth ideas of, even though I do acknowledge that the accessibility map right now should be better, the tunnels that people with physical disabilities have to walk through to go to class are not in the best conditions, and I acknowledge that's an issue. But we shouldn't let those tangible issues distract us from the systematic problems that we have. The fact that mental health is going in an all-time low because of the tragedies that have happened. It mostly stems from the fact that we do not understand as a community. Sometimes we assume that we're all here in the same ability, and we don't understand that our peers next to us are not going to have the same functioning mentally and not the same physical functioning as ourselves. And the main challenge, as soon as you overcome that, students really are willing to help each other. And I encountered the fact that the engineering community is very collaborative. So it wasn't really much of a challenge because people were not trying to help, but because there was this instance of not knowing. But I know that since now I've had that first round of defending what we stand for as students with disabilities and who we are, I'm pretty sure that this time around we're just going to be able to collaborate with all the members of the Engineering Student Council to keep moving forward.
Okay, awesome, great, thanks so much. And that'll be it from the Disabilities and Accessibilities Issues Representative. Now I invite the International Students Representative, at-large representative for the ESC to come forward. And this position is also unopposed, so I'll ask her to just share her name, her platform, and I'll ask her a brief question regarding her platform as well. So yes.
So I get 5 minutes.
Pardon?
So I get 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Liu, and I'm excited to run as the International Students Representative of ESC. And because I'm running for this specific role, I feel the necessity to introduce my own international background. I grew up in Shanghai, China, And I immigrated to Los Angeles, where I attended middle school, and then I went to high school in Connecticut to a private boarding school for 4 years before I joined all of you guys in New York City. And because of my mixed backgrounds and all the friends that I made across the continents and across the states, I understand how important it is to integrate into a new community and to learn about other cultures of other people around you. And that's precisely the reason why I want to run as your international students representative. To make my speech short and sweet, I'm going to list the 4 major points of my platform. First will be sustained collaboration and communication with International at Columbia. On the website of Columbia, there are 3 major programs under International at Columbia. First, the Global Ambassador Program. Second, the International Resource Team. And third, the International Student Advisory Board. I feel the need to create a more sustained and coherent collaboration with those 3 programs to communicate, to represent the international student group and communicate with those 3 boards about student issues, possible opportunities for internships, and also any cultural concerns. Second point of my platform would be marketing for and updating our multicultural events. I feel the lack of advertisements for the international events on campus, and if I were to be the international student representative, I will create a platform either using social media or email system at Columbia to update on the multicultural events for international students to participate. Either it be sororities, fraternities, or clubs and organizations, or international alumni speeches. I would love to create a platform for all the international students to access and to feel integrated to the community. Thirdly, active responsiveness to cultural concerns for international students. So again, tying back to my own original background, I understand the difficulty of integrating to a new community. Sometimes we don't meet the people that we like during the first few weeks or even months. And I feel the necessity to help my fellow students at Columbia to integrate into this community and to feel that they are proud of their own culture, but also open to new cultures from others. And lastly, which is the most important point of my platform, will be advocacy for intellectual and cultural internationalization at Columbia. To me, the entire world, not just Columbia, is becoming more internationalized, not just intellectually, but across cultures and across extracurricular interests. And it is my ultimate goal, not only to help our international students, but also to introduce domestic students to the multicultural background of students at Columbia. So instead of just listening to concerns from international students, I will also love to help promote their cultures to all domestic students from the United States. And that concludes my 4 points of my platform. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the one quick question that you had is your last point about educating members in terms of not just like facilitating international students, but also teaching domestic students about like the international students' experience. Do you have any specific events you had already in mind to facilitate that kind of interaction?
Yes, to do that, first, I would love to contact and collaborate with the clubs and organizations, especially multicultural ones at Columbia. So instead of only constraining those events to international students, I would love to work with the clubs and organizations to extend those opportunities to domestic students as well. So literally every member of the engineering class will be able to participate in those multicultural events. So it's not just limited to a student of a specific race or specific culture.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, that wraps up the International Students Representative showcase, I believe. Not really a debate, but okay. Now I'd like to invite the candidates for VP Finance of ESC to come up. This is an executive for a position, so hopefully there's going to be more clash fire here regarding the thing. So what I'm going to be doing, again, is the same deal as everyone else. I'm going to ask for your name, and I'm going to ask for your platform. Because there's only 2 of you, I'll give you guys each 2 minutes to talk about your platforms. And then moving forward, I have a couple of questions to ask you regarding your platforms. Okay, so all right, we'll go from this end to that end, and then if you may begin.
All right, so I'm a sophomore in C's. My name is Hunter Hasley. I'm born and raised in Houston, Texas. I'm on the track and field team as a thrower. And then as my agenda, I plan on instituting a cost-effective agenda that allows for expanded programs and upgraded sense of community within C's. I want to ensure that all members of the community feel like they have a seat at the table. I want to bargain for the funds necessary to provide a positive experience for people in all clubs and across C's. Once secured, I want to properly maintain those funds and make certain they go directly towards programs that benefit our students. I'd like to increase the amount of formal school-wide events by working with the currently elected president and members of ESC. As Columbia students, especially C students, we concentrate vast sums of time on schoolwork. Helping students meet and get to know other students fosters academic success through group work, as well as social success and a feeling of belonging. I would strive towards properly advertising these events, working with the Vice President of Communications. Oftentimes, events meant to bring students together are forgotten in the clutter of emails or shuffle of Facebook. I'd work to better highlight these events so students don't feel left out in the daily grind. I'd also like to establish smaller, more specific community events that bring together certain members of the C's. Although clubs provide a strong outreach to students, I propose community gatherings that bring members of various classes or clubs together. Large halls that C students attend many lectures in often fail to foster peer relationships and class camaraderie. I'd like to work with clubs and professors so that our diverse community can feel even more interconnected, including free pizza events, because who doesn't love free pizza?
First of all, I'd like to apologize on camera for the background noise going on. There seems to be an event in the actual room hall, so it's causing a little bit of disturbance. So just I'd like to apologize for that. I'll see you again.
Yeah, it would have been great if we could have gotten hippie sabotage while we were talking instead of this. Anyway, should I go?
Yes.
All right, so my name's Austin Paris. I'm a junior in C's, and I'm running for the VP of Finance position for two main reasons. The first of which is every single year there's a slate of new student councils with new ideas and initiatives to improve student life. But there's still big ticket budget issues every single year, like Bacchanal and funding of service organizations and clubs that happen every single year. And as VP of Finance, I want to ensure that those events, amongst many other things, are getting the attention and money they need, and that the budgeting is done more effectively, so that the things students depend on outside of their classes to make their life at Columbia feel whole are not, being stressed. Hold on one second. So the other reason was, after reading the recent spec op-ed, The Discomfort We Cannot Afford, I realized that there wasn't really good representation on the student council for making sure that money goes to service organizations like the food bank and public health and other mental health organizations that a lot of students benefit from on campus. So as VP of Finance, I want to be a set of open ears for these organizations as they come and make budget requests. We know that the food bank is coming to make a budget request for next year, so as VP of Finance, I would want to make sure that organizations like that ensure financial security for students are getting the money and attention they need. Again, going back to Bacchanal, there are a few events that really bring together the whole campus, like Homecoming and Bacchanal. Am I going too long?
You can wrap up.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I want to make sure that Bacchanal funding is streamlined and assured, and I also want to help connect students to jobs and internships. C's can be kind of an isolating community, and connecting people to all the clubs and jobs and internships on campus is really important for helping us break out of mud and really getting the full benefit of things going on campus. And then my other aspect of my platform is financial aid. I want to ensure better publicity and access to grants for students, funding for personal projects and trips, and club equipment purchases that everyone is actually paying for when I pay for college, but not necessarily getting the benefit out of.
Thank you. So I have a specific question for each candidate. I'll start with Hunter. So in your platform, you mentioned a lot of desire to hold a lot of new events specifically, but then you don't really specify what kind of events. So I'd like to give you this chance to elaborate on like what kind of events that you'd like to host, and then as well as how you go about funding these events as well.
So I'd really like to work with the current president and the vice president of policy in order to really come up with what events are people interested in and what events they feel like we should initiate. Specifically, maybe various clubs coming together, maybe class-wide type events, or maybe between classes. I'm very open to it, and then I just like to make sure that we utilize our budget to the maximum extent and everything's properly funded for.
Okay, great. Thank you. For Austin, I have a question regarding on one of your platform points. There's actually a part about funding student startups. Is that a feasible idea in the sense that can you justify giving money specifically to specific like companies or individuals?
So my point was not specifically that a student budget should be allocated towards people's startups, but that the student budget should be used to help make students more aware of the clubs and organizations that do have money on campus, because there's a ton of money floating around Columbia that's not necessarily being taken advantage of by all students, and there's also a ton of job, internship, and investment opportunities through clubs that, aside from career fairs, might actually be better opportunities for helping students move along with their life after college.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for the clarification. Now I have a question for both of you, and this will just to wrap it up. So financial transparency is always a big issue, just in terms of like students may want to know, but they might be able to get access to it. How will you ensure that financial transparency is a key part of ESC moving forward? Like I think we'll start with Hunter and move on to Austin.
I'm fine with posting whatever financial transactions or budgets come through my hands that are available to be seen or should be seen by the public. If people in the CS community are especially interested, I'm sure they could email me to reach out as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, Congress has to release its budget every year, so should the Engineering Student Council. There are a lot of clubs that people would be surprised get a ton of money, and probably other organizations that people would be surprised by how little money they get. So I think being as open and transparent as possible will encourage more political action and more students to get involved in government where they see issues or where they want to see more money allocated.
All right, great. Thanks so much. And I think that'll wrap up the executive board debates for VP of Finance, VP for Finance, and ESC. So thanks so much.
Great,
thank you.
you.